This is Gateway City Sports.
It's a trap!
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
This is the Team of Rivals podcast.
Everything you want to hear from the big sports to the big screen.
He's all by himself, fires into the end zone! Caught! Touchdown! No!
Vaughn into the windup in his first offering. Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed.
Doesn't like you. I don't like you either.
Time winding down. Michael for three. Yeah! Yes! She is gone! I can't believe what I just saw.
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy!
You believe in miracles? Yes!
You may fire when ready.
What?
Cubs and Cardinals fans, it's Thursday, July 15th. And this is the Team of Rivals podcast, proud members of the Gateway City Sports Network, where you can find all kinds of great podcast and blog content. And tonight, obviously, we're starting with the kickoff of the trade season. Yes, I know there were trades before the All-Star break, but I mean, come on, really. Cubs are selling Joc Pederson. Everyone must go. Joc, we hardly knew you, but thanks for bringing us back. Legit prospect? Maybe. I don't know. We'll find out. You can follow us online at teamrivalspodcast.com. We're on Instagram and Facebook at Team of Rivals Podcast, and we're on Twitter at Team of Rivals Pod. And for those of you watching us live, hit the like and subscribe buttons and be sure to ring that bell on YouTube so that you receive notifications anytime we post new content. Joining me for tonight's show, permanent occasional guest host, former state wrestling champion, Elliot Dewey. And number 48 in the 2020 edition of the Top Cards on Twitter, Ron Nuttall. Ron, we're going to have to get that updated. We can't call you number 48 anymore. It's 2021. It's more than halfway through 2021.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you're right. I wonder where I'm going to land in 21.
Ron with the high energy entrance to tonight's show.
And please, folks, don't connect the dots to Rizzo. Please.
Oh, this has nothing to do with Rizzo.
Yeah.
This guy's in high A ball. If I was going to connect the dots to anything, this is a play for a designated hitter down the line. Because we all know the DH is coming.
Yes.
So for those of you unfamiliar who haven't caught up on the news yet, the Cubs kicked off the trade season by sending Joc Pederson to the Atlanta Braves, where apparently he's going to play right field. The Cubs are, by all reporting, sending no money to Atlanta. So Atlanta could be on the hook for up to I think it's $7 million. And they got back a first base prospect, Bryce Ball, who's ranked anywhere from number 10 to number 15 in the Braves system. And the Braves system is better
really
than
good.
The Cubs. Well, was better than the Cubs by the prospect ranking. Now the Cubs just moved ahead, but regardless, this is somebody who apparently the Braves were high on, and they soured on, and they sent him to the Cubs for Joc Pederson. I'm stunned by the return on this, just what I'm initially reading. Elliot, what about you? What do you got for
Yeah, they said that he moved up through the low parts of rookie league. They kept him on the minor league COVID team last year, so they were pretty high on him all the way up through last year. I know right now he has a high strikeout ground ball rate, which that's not what you want to see in a power hitter. But when he connects, he's crushing the ball. So maybe it's just some adjustments that he's seeing right now from not playing a full season of baseball last year. We'll see. I mean, these guys, they could go one way or the other, but he has been highly touted and being ranked between 10 and 15 in the Braves system. It's pretty good. So it'll probably be a few years. He's going to have to work his way through the Cubs farm system. So maybe we'll see him in a couple of years. I mean, he's only 23, so.
And they don't, although that's kind of old for high A ball. At 23, you would expect that he'd be a little bit more advanced, but he did lose a year last year with the whole COVID thing. So this is only the beginning, right, Elliot? I mean, it doesn't end with Joc Pederson.
No, it does not. And we'll talk about who we think's going to be on the block, unless you want to go into that now, because there's quite a few of them.
I can't imagine that Ron has anything to add on this trade other than, being disappointed that he doesn't get to see Joc Pederson's mustache. What is it, 6 more times this year?
No, it was an awful mustache. I don't know what he was thinking or what he was doing, but there's some people can pull that stuff off, man. You got that guy out in that bullpen out there of yours who
Chafin.
Got to give him some credit. He wears that well. Others they look like, I mean, I don't know what you call them. I mean, not really porn stars, because that was worse than a porn stash. That was like a perv stash. It was,
it was fantastic.
It was, yeah.
Ron, when are you going to grow a porn stash for us?
I've done the thing where you let your facial hair grow out a little bit and you shave everything but that area. I don't have the lip, skull, face structure, whatever it is. It just doesn't work. I mean, it doesn't work. I mean, I look like Tom Selleck's less successful nephew.
How about this? How about sometime, maybe during the winter when nobody's watching us, we have a beard grow
just
off.
During the winter? Hold on, let's see how many we got right now.
We could do that. We could do this. We could start this now and then have a mustache podcast. So we'll all shave the beards, leave the mustache,
terrible.
and do it. We'll all look like we're from the 80s.
Pete, can you
That's
grow
what
one?
November is for, right? Can I grow what?
Can you grow a mustache?
Oh my God! You don't remember? I grew like 4 or 5 years in a row. I grew one for Movember. I had a mustache when my son was born.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've had a couple of stupid mustaches over the years. It's been great.
I must have missed that. I'm sorry. Is there a picture?
Oh man, now I'm going to have to attach them to the podcast notes.
I don't know if we should do that, but okay.
Yeah, I'll find a way.
What's more interesting, guys? I don't know how much we're going to actually talk about the All-Star game, but both of us should have felt proud to have products of the Cubs system and a product of the Cardinal system. They were reserves, but they were still in the All-Star game representing their teams. Unfortunately, they weren't our teams, and I'm talking about Kyle Schwarber and Adolis Garcia, both from our clubs and representing new clubs in the All-Star game. This year kind of sucks seeing that, doesn't it? I mean, it's a little bothersome. I don't know
what's worse. I don't know what's worse, having a product of the Cubs farm system representing another team, or having the 3 representatives of the Cubs being the 3 most likely to get shipped out in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it hurts a little bit more knowing, you just traded Pederson away. And I thought that was a good signing in the offseason. I thought he would have a pretty nice year in Chicago. I thought there would be low pressure this year and he'd be able to establish some value for himself and, go wherever next year. I'm not surprised he was a target to be traded, though. I mean, that's likely why they brought him in cheap. Somebody needs a left-handed bat somewhere. So they found a home and there you have it. So not a big loss for the Cubs.
I think that's the case. I think that's the case with all of the 1-year contracts that they signed this year. If you ball out and we're in a place to make a run in the playoffs, awesome. If you ball out and we still aren't in a place to make a run for the playoffs, great. We get to trade you and get some assets back. I mean, that's, without the intention of tanking like they did, when Hoyer and Epstein first got to Chicago. That was the modus operandi for a number of years. I mean, that's how they got Jake Arrieta and Pedro Strop.
Yeah.
They had a couple of guys they had Clevenger and Feldman who showed up in that year and showed up well enough that they were able to flip them for what turned out to be incredibly valuable assets.
Sent you a message.
Okay. Am I supposed to read it?
You don't have to read it out loud.
Just execute.
Just execute. Execute the command. Ellie and I will stand by. We'll wait for your return. All right. He was a little choppy on my end. I don't know about yours.
Yeah, I was getting the Matrix effect.
Yeah,
his
that's
voice
fine. We'll carry it for a second here. We'll let him hop back in the feed. But yeah, Pete's connection got a little choppy there. We apologize for that. Well, Elliot and I don't. It's not our fault. He's got shitty Wi-Fi. He won't upgrade it. So what do you do? It's like my dad who doesn't watch his HD channels that he's paid for almost 2 decades. I know. We've talked about it before. Nobody wants to hear it. But, in regards to this, the whole All-Star event, just, I forget a lot.
I felt that All-Star event was the Shohei Ohtani feature.
Yeah, it was. I mean, he was the big story going in there, obviously.
Yeah.
Having the arm he has, and then having it's still unbelievable.
The guy was throwing 100.
And then he's got, he's leading the entire Major League Baseball in home runs, which is incredible. And I know I've dogged it for a couple of years.
I was going to say, you remember the year before when we were talking mad shit? Because they were his pregame home runs were a thing to behold. It's like it's a batting practice.
They were talking about the batting practice.
Get off the guy's balls.
Yeah. That wasn't, and then the whole hoopla around the trade and the Angels signing him. And, I'm sure he wanted a West Coast team to be a little bit, at least a few hours closer to the time over in Japan so people could actually watch him. So I'm not surprised there. But I have to say, for all the crap I gave him and then all the media hype that baseball provided, it wasn't him. That, hey, I got to give the guy credit this year. He's pretty amazing.
He's looked
really.
good.
Yeah, pretty amazing. We can get into the Stephen A. Smith comments later, I think, but it was the Shohei Ohtani show, and so be it. I'm not worried about that.
I mean, the guy does get a lot of press, but I don't think he gets enough press across baseball. He gets a lot of it out there, and if they feature the Angels on ESPN, but like we said before, him and Mike Trout, now 2 of the best baseball players in baseball, are not featured by baseball. I felt like this was the first time that baseball actually tried to feature him.
So come on. Come on. Do we have to go back to Ron's favorite magazine cover, or whatever the hell it was?
No, it was that
was 2 years ago.
Yeah,
though.
it was when they signed him.
But you can't say that they haven't been trying to feature him.
Well, it's hard when the guy's out with Tommy John surgery and he couldn't. He'd been out for a while, and look, he wasn't. Like, he might have been good when he got here, but we didn't really see much. This is the first time we've really seen him perform up to the hype. I mean, this is it. And so that was my issue with and you know what? If you pay attention to what I say, I talk the same shit around prospects that come up too. Everybody's got these big sky-high expectations. They always think the next best answer is sitting there in the minor league system. And these old, decrepit, 29-year-old, 30-year-old players are just blocking the progress of every prospect that you have a hard on over. I get tired of that.
Ultimately, Ron, your criticism is not of the player.
No, absolutely not. It never has been. It's never been pointed at him. It was the Major League Baseball marketing machine. That's what I got a little bit annoyed with. When he signed, they had the picture you're referring to is a picture of him next to, at the time, again, we didn't know about the trash-banging Astros at this point in time, but they showed a picture of him next to the world champion Astros saying, does he make him a contender? And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, that one guy over there who's never faced a major league pitcher, never thrown against a major league batter, and you're already questioning, does this one guy alone bring them up to snuff with at the time was the defending world champions? And I just thought that was a little overboard. That was a manufactured hype machine. I mean, it was a Spice Girls marketing attempt by Major League Baseball, and just annoyed the shit out of me. I mean, I go back to the same analogy. It's like baseball didn't want anybody to let the wine breathe. There was no decanter on this one, man. They popped the cork and said, everybody drink from it right now. This is our new hero. And we waited 2 years for it. I'm giving him credit this year, but the criticism was never at him. It was always towards the marketing machine.
Yep. Absolutely.
Now, Stephen A. Smith may have a different way of putting it. I didn't get a sound clip of that. I wish I would have, but that was one where, and I heard the Levitard crew talking about it, and I've heard other people talk about it. I mean, imagine being in front of a microphone that many hours on any given week. And what are the chances? We only do this for about an hour every week, sometimes only an hour every 2 weeks. The chances of us saying something really stupid are high enough for us. We're not professionals at this, but can you imagine just like having a microphone in front of you 15, 20 hours a week? Like, you're bound to say something you didn't really mean. It just came out the wrong way, and it is bad. But part of me is like, I've never seen Stephen A. Smith quite getting himself into this kind of situation. So to me, looking at him going, you bigot or whatever, like that's a hard thing for me to say about him. And not just because he's black either. It's just that's not I don't think he quite meant what I think there was a message there, and I think he just messed it up. And it's probably because he's been hopping from topic to topic, from the NBA, which is his wheelhouse, to all this other stuff, and just kind of got caught up in the moment and said something that didn't quite, I don't think it was quite what he intended, but he apologized for it.
Well, but Ron, I think you're absolutely right. And you're giving him a lot more grace than most people do. When you're expected to pump out that much content every single week, you're bound to say something stupid or something that you didn't phrase properly. Sure. And right now, our culture is not geared towards allowing you to correct the record. Oh, no, it doesn't want you to. And the culture at times that we deal with is they want instant execution, instant public execution, and nobody wants to wait for any facts to come out. And we're going to get to it maybe eventually, because I don't think we talked about it very much. I mean, there's this whole incident with Trevor Bauer too, where, and I'm going to segue to that, Pete, because you talked about what the public wants, what the culture is these days, and that is, well, screw due process, screw fact. I mean, if it was said, it's a horrible thing that was said. Let's just kill him now.
Right away.
Let's kill him now.
The same thing with this. The public wants their piece of flesh.
Yeah, and the public isn't owed shit, by the way. We're not owed anything. We want to know. That's different than deserving to know, right? So, like the situation with Trevor Bauer is another one where I already seen people on Twitter, and this is what's amazing, right? I mean, look, if what he's accused of is true, he's going to see his jail time, and he's probably done ever playing Major League Baseball again. If he's guilty of what he's been accused of, deservedly so, he'll be done. But I think until every single fact comes out, man, I'm not going to throw a single rock at him yet. Why should I? You got to wait for this stuff to play out, and just people don't want to do it. And then all I see on Twitter when this happened was people just calling him a piece of shit, and that's fine. If he's guilty, I agree with you, but we don't know that yet. And so some of these people that do this stuff on social media, fans like us, fans that got a little bit bigger following or voice, part of me wonders, are they doing it because they absolutely think that's a horrible act, or are they doing it in hopes that a couple women out there on Twitter that they're following notice how righteous they are by saying they're all against this stuff, and they're acting so indignant by it,
doing it for the likes and the clicks.
Doing it for the likes and the clicks is what I'm afraid some of these people do. And it really makes me sick, and it makes me want to turn Twitter off, which I did for about 48 hours. I just let the process work itself out. If he's guilty, he's look. There's nothing you're going to be able to type in your little shitty tweet that's going to change the world. When the facts come out and he goes to prison and never plays baseball again, that's enough for everybody. And we don't have to appease anybody on Twitter. No fans. So fuck you guys.
And realize too that the two of them are not necessarily connected. He may not go to prison, and he may never play baseball again, because baseball doesn't necessarily have to, especially when it comes to domestic abuse. So,
or at least play baseball in the United States.
Yeah, in the eyes of the law, he may not have committed anything. He may not have committed a crime in the eyes of the law.
In the court of public opinion,
he may get off for this.
A team may not want to touch him because they don't want to deal with that. I absolutely agree with you.
And Major League Baseball may say it doesn't matter that whether or not what you committed was a crime. The actions that you undertook are a violation of our domestic violence policy, and you're permanently suspended from the game.
Yeah, and Major League Baseball set that precedent all the way back to the Black Sox scandal, right, where they were found innocent in a court, but the commissioner at the time, can't remember his name, was like
Kennesaw
Mountain Landis. That's right. Said, I don't really care. You guys are done. You bet on the sport. And so, yeah, baseball has done it before. But that's just another one there. Like, Elliot, I think you said it fine. The public wants their pound of flesh, and fuck you, public. You don't deserve it. You deserve the facts, but facts take time in a case like this. And if you can't wait for it, well, Well, go talk to your mom because she raised a big fucking baby. Acts like a baby in public.
I got to take a phone call. So before we dive into the deep stuff,
yes.
Because we know the Cubs are selling.
We got a guest on with us too, by the way. Braden, you just want to say hi real quick? I know you're patiently waiting. He called.
Yeah. So I saw the Joc Pederson trade. And, I don't know anything about the prospect they got in return. So I don't know if Pete Elliott know anything about him, but
they don't.
We
don't know much about him yet. We don't know much about him yet, other than to go to Fangraphs and pick a few things up, right? I mean, we don't know a ton.
We know he's huge. He's like 6'6", 240. He's a mountain of a man, and he's got incredible power. He what I read, he immediately will be at the top of the rankings for the Cubs as far as pure raw power. They're prospects, I should say.
So
that's what we know.
So let Pete, if you don't mind, I mean, let's go ahead and talk about the event then this week, the whole thing. And I forget often that this thing was moved to Colorado, probably because the All-Star game and all that stuff just doesn't do much for me personally. I think the last time I was most interested in it is when it actually took place in St. Louis, just to see kind of how the national spotlight would treat the Cardinals and then how the Cardinals, what kind of show St. Louis would put on for the All-Star game. Other than that, gosh, I'm really just, I hate to say this, but so what has been kind of my feeling about the All-Star game. It just doesn't do anything for me anymore.
I didn't watch a single moment of coverage. The only coverage I watched was the draft on Sunday, just to see who the Cubs picked. That was it.
I watched. I feel dirty saying this. I watched the home run derby just to see how Ohtani would do.
That's okay. It's okay. I mean, you know what?
And I tell you what, those 500-foot home runs were ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, and you know that they didn't put them they intentionally didn't put them in the humidor. Right. So they did everything they could to make that home run derby ridiculous.
Yes. Oh, it was nuts. And Pete Alonso, man, that guy gets in a home run derby and he just
holy God, he was built for that, wasn't he?
Kills it.
Yeah, I mean, he was like watching one of those softball guys hit softballs out of a major league softball. I mean, it was ridiculous. And I did watch parts of the All-Star game as well, Elliot, and I kind of my 10-year-old was curious. Now that he's interested in baseball, he kind of wanted to see what it was all about. So he made it about, I don't know, maybe into the second round before he was back on the iPad. But that was a pretty good showdown, I think, between Soto and
Ohtani.
That was actually fantastic. They kept tying, and I thought that was funny as hell. My wife is actually watching a little bit of it too. But Braden, did you catch the home run derby?
Help
if I took him off mute.
But I watched all of the home run derby and all the All-Star game. The All-Star game is definitely worse than the home run derby. Everybody knows that. But I always watch the whole thing. It's just kind of like tradition, to watch it. But honestly, with the All-Star game, they should do what the NBA does, and they should pick like Acuna and Tatis or Ohtani and Tatis as captains or whatever, and just draft teams. It doesn't matter if it's AL versus NL, which I don't see baseball doing it because tradition and AL versus NL, but it's boring. Just mix it up. Do something different.
It is. I agree with you. And the other thing I couldn't stand, Pete, I know you didn't watch an ounce of it, but Elliot, the uniforms. I mean,
I saw pictures. Oh my God.
I mean, well, you know what? Part of what has kind of lost its luster as far as the All-Star game goes, and to some extent even the playoffs, is that was the one time in the year when the NL and National League players would face off of each other because there was no interleague play, and there was kind of a mystery there, like how would these guys receive each other? Because they just don't play again. They never see them, and so your stars against another team's stars, and I guess the only thing we have that's like that now is the World Baseball Classic to a point, but we still have players like who was it? The center fielder for Atlanta for years. I can't remember his name. Andrew
Jones.
Andrew Jones played for the Netherlands team, and you're like, what the hell? But there was some of it, but then there was at least the Cuban players and the players from Japan would play against the U.S. and they'd never seen each other before. But that's what the All-Star game used to kind of be like, right? And so you don't have that element there. These guys face each other all the time now that interleague play has been a mainstay for like 16 years now. And I don't know, it's just kind of lost its mystery for me a bit. The game is a showcase game. I kind of agree with Braden a little bit. If they took a page out of the NBA All-Star game, that is an interesting thing that they do, where they have team captains that draft teams. I think that's actually pretty good. And I would love to see voting taken away from the fans. We are terrible at it, guys.
Absolutely.
I mean, you saw my post earlier this week, and it's absolutely true. We're asked to pick the president of the United States. We're given that right, that authority, that power to vote and pick a president of the United States. We are the same people that collective. The only unified decision we've made over the last year and a half has been to collectively run the U.S. supply chain out of toilet paper during a pandemic when it wasn't even a symptom that you're going to shit yourself. But that's what we decided to do, and nobody argued with each other about it. We, the same people, are asked to pick a president. The same collective basket of dipshits is what we are together, and therefore, I don't think we should be allowed to select all-stars. I don't care if it's a showcase for the fans or not. We're really bad at it. And so I would rather see players, coaches, not media. I would rather see them pick their own damn all-stars. And I don't care if it's a good old boy club.
You know what I miss from the All-Star game? I miss the players wearing their actual uniforms.
Yes, I know. I do too.
Yeah, me too. I always loved that.
Yeah.
Baseball's the one sport where you can wear your own uniform. You know who's on your team and who's not. Even if you're all wearing different, like it's absolutely necessary in football, in hockey, in basketball. Yes, you all have to have the same uniform on because otherwise you don't know who the hell you're throwing the ball to.
Mm-hmm.
But in baseball, there are 10 guys on the field. Well, there might be 13, right?
Right.
Pretty good chance that if you throw the ball at second base, either your second baseman or your shortstop's going to catch it. I don't often remember a runner trying to catch the ball. Javi Baez might try one of these days.
Or if you're not Rob Dibble, purposely throwing the ball not to the guy with a helmet on, but Rob Dibble likes to do that.
So can we please go back to that? Because I miss being able to identify where my team's players are on the field. Right?
Yeah.
I can't tell. I got to look for what, a hat, right?
No,
that's pretty much it.
Did they? They didn't even wear really their own hats though, did they?
No, they were
like a modified.
They got rid of that too.
But they
wore their own uniforms in 2019, but not this year.
Yeah, Braden, I think that's pretty universal across the board. I don't think fans liked that uniform change.
It doesn't help when your jerseys are terrible. Like when I say a logo for my MLB The Show uniform, I don't put two logos on top of each other. And when I accidentally do, I'm like, God, that looks sick. You'd think people who do this professionally for Major League Baseball would think that. But no, you have fans that have as much time on their hands, they can make better all-star jerseys than whoever the hell they're hiring. That's the problem.
Well, that's what it comes down to, though. They were going to sell jerseys that nobody ever had before, and it was going to be a one-time thing. Obviously, this is a marketing play. It was a financial decision, and it probably paid off for them a little bit. But I guarantee you they didn't do marketing research, because they would have put those uniforms in front of people. They would have had an overwhelming majority would have said, keep your own damn uniforms. This is stupid. Fine, put a little patch on it. So I have to buy the one with the patch on it, but a Cubs uniform needs to be a Cubs uniform. A Cardinals uniform needs to be a Cardinals uniform. Now, I still don't know in my mind if these All-Star Game uniforms are worse than the Wrigleyville uniforms that the Cubs have been wearing this year, but they're pretty bad.
Well, considering you can still get a Wrigleyville uniform and a number of the shirts on the Cubs website.
Yeah. They'll sell plenty of them.
The one shirt that looked good, completely sold out.
Which one was the one that looked good?
It was the one that was light blue. It was a light blue T-shirt.
The light blue one.
Yeah.
Okay.
It looked phenomenal.
Yeah.
But of course you can't get that one because it looked good.
No, the favorite retro uniform I think I've seen St. Louis in over the last decade was always that one that goes back to the 40s, where it had the original piping that they wear on their Saturday uniforms now and their Saturday road blues. I wish they would wear that more often because it's a really sharp looking uniform, even though the bird looks like it's on crack on the bat. But
it might be given the state of St. Louis right now.
That's true.
Given a little bit of a meth problem we've got down there, plus the Delta variant, it's all fun.
Just a little.
Oh, where are the Cardinals going to get their Nike Connect or City uniforms or whatever?
I don't care. I don't know.
Is that known yet?
No, somebody already made it. Remember, it's the one that say boring.
That's right.
Gosh, it's like the worst.
I would buy that though.
The worst joke.
Generally, people that hover around on social media aren't great at photoshopping, but I've seen some pretty interesting takes on the whole boring thing, like the N and boring being the arch. I thought that was a pretty creative one. So people have a lot of time. I wish they had that much time to tinker around, but anyway, the All-Star game. Look, I can move past this. It doesn't mean much to me. National League didn't really show up. The Brewers certainly put on a good show at the All-Star game.
See what happens when Brewers pitchers actually have to face good hitting instead of the NL Central.
That's right. Yep.
So speaking of the Brewers in the NL Central, we'll get into our unique hell, Ron. Your team is how appropriate that the last game before the All-Star break gets banged so that we're tied for third place in the division.
Same identical records. Identical records is absolutely appropriate.
So we know the Cubs are selling.
Yep.
What do you think is going to happen with the Cardinals? They're not going to win the division.
They would have to. Well,
come on.
It can't happen. The Brewers would have to start playing really bad.
Yeah, I mean the Brewers, the Cardinals would have to start playing out of their minds. They have to go on a really hot streak and a hot run, and the Brewers have to play just under 500 for a stretch of 4 to 5 weeks for this thing to get all caught up. So yes, is there a chance? I can't say there's not. Is it likely? Probably not. So can the Cardinals get in there with a wild card? And they have to finish second in the division because the American League West is going to scrounge up 3 playoff spots. So they're going to have to finish, and there's a possibility they can finish better than anybody in the East that doesn't win the East. That's I think very doable. But here's the problem.
That still doesn't mean that they're going to get a wild card.
No, it doesn't. And I think the deck is stacked against them a bit. If you think about it, when you're missing your ace like this, the guy that can stop a skid, can stop a losing streak. We don't know when he's going to be back yet. We'll be lucky if he's back next month. We'll be lucky if he's back in the kind of shape and condition that we need him to be in. A staff
Ron,
ace.
Let's be honest. You're not missing your ace. You're missing your ace, your 2, your 3.
I haven't got off him yet, but that's the biggest. But that's the biggest barrier you have in front of you right now is you don't have that. You don't really have a legitimate 4 and 5 either. Adam Wainwright, you can put him anywhere in the like he's still doing his thing, right? He's not going to be spectacular and make a lot of highlight reels, but he's still eating up innings and doing his thing. Kim has had a couple good starts. He's strung about 3 good starts together where he's made it into the 6th inning, which is a good sign. That's what we needed him to do. After that, man, it is a patchwork, and they need to get Flaherty back in a bad way. They need to see what they can get on the market. I mean, Wade LeBlanc has made a couple starts, and he actually hasn't been that bad. He's been better than what they've thrown out there in Ponce de Leon and John Gant and some of these other guys that they've tried to stick in the rotation. He actually has held his own. They need to find 2 more guys that can hold their own. And so if they got to go dumpster diving for these guys that have been DFA'd or just not signed, like Cole, they need to be seat number 1 at the Cole Hamill showcase, because I don't care if he's retired, if he looked like shit in his last year with Atlanta. I mean, they need to do whatever they can to try to limp into August. I mean, it's reality, and they're going to need to make those upgrades. They're not going to sell because you don't acquire Nolan Arenado and then sell. You just don't do that. They can't afford to do that. So they're not going to be sellers, but it's an uphill battle. I'm not going to deny that. It's not out of the realm of possibility. So they got to come out hot. And they got to manufacture some kind of magic because they don't have the horses.
Get rid of DeYoung as well.
That was later. That was later in the back of my mind, Braden. But if you want to jump to it, that's fine. Yeah, that's the subject of a lot of, I believe, fan talk. But I don't think it's organizational talk. I think they're all in on Paul DeYoung. Unless they've got something in their back pocket.
That's the wrong guy to be all in on. That's for sure.
Well, I mean, as far as like looking, hey, this is our shortstop, it's DeYoung. They're going to tell you that. I don't know that they have a magic bullet that's going to net them Trevor Story anytime soon.
So what do you think, Ron? I mean, I know you're saying that they're not selling, but do you think that they're not going to sell off, or do you think that we're not going to see them selling at all? I mean, some movement on the margins, or no?
Just sell DeYoung and start Sosa short. just always Paul DeJong for me.
Yeah, I mean, I get what Braden's saying. The problem is with Paul DeJong, his value is so low right now. You're just not going to get anything for him. The one thing that they have going for him to deal him, though, Braden, is that he's got such a team-friendly contract. It's not expensive. It's a low risk for anybody that wants to take it on. They might be able to flip him for something, and I think that's still possible, right? It just depends on what they're.
And then he'll go in at 30 home runs.
And then he'll be an all-star next year for whoever we deal him to, no doubt. So, Pete, there's a lot, man. You could peel back this onion a lot on what's going on with the Cardinals and their hitting and their pitching and who's responsible for it. But the one air cover that they're provided is the fact that they've had all of these injuries, and that's going to be the line they're going to stick with. And if I was in that position, I'd probably stick with the same damn one and try to do something in the background. But I don't expect a bold move, and I think what you said, the last part of what you said, is it moves more on the margins. I think that's probably likely. And they'll hope to get lucky. They'll hope to find another Jeff Weaver like they did in 2006 that was DFA'd and pitched like crazy for 2 months for him.
Or it could be moves that they make to shore up for next year.
Could be
instead of something that they're looking to where, hey, let's try and make a run at this. Why don't we try and get something that can help us next year, and then during the offseason bring something in that's really going to make an impact difference.
And that's in their MO. I mean, no pun intended. Not the state abbreviation or Mosaic. That really is what they look at a lot of the times. Is this they don't get in the rental market that often. What they're looking at is somebody who has a little bit of control beyond it. I don't know how easy or difficult that's going to be to do this year. I expect to see some movement, but I do think that no matter what they do, they're not going to be able to appease the Twitter crowd with everything that Twitter thinks they need to do. I just don't think they're going to be able to do it. Now, 2022, even going into this year before the Nolan Arenado deal, 2022 is what a lot of Cardinals fans like me had our eyes on, because we have a lot of money coming off the books. Like, the saga with Matt Carpenter is finally over after this year. Carlos Martinez, we haven't talked about him.
Are you sure about that?
Pete,
maybe Mo extends him.
No, the only one I will.
One more extension. One more year.
There are two moves that I want to hear Braden answer this too. There are two moves that I will flip my shit out on. If Carpenter's brought back, that's one. Two, if Martinez is brought back. Now, he's out for the remainder of the year. I think we've seen the last of Carlos Martinez. I think the way he's conducted himself, the way he has, the way he's prepped himself, got himself ready, the fact that he just cannot focus, it's got to be the end of the rope with this guy. I mean, he's had more rope given to him than any player that I could possibly remember from a team that just kind of got fed up with a player's shit. And I'm fed up with him. I'm done with Carlos Martinez. At a time when you needed somebody just to pitch average the most, just get your shit together a little bit more than what you usually do. Like when we desperately needed it because like half the staff is dead. Like we needed you just to come in and not lose your mind. And he lost his mind several times. And so I'm over Carlos Martinez thing. I don't want to see him back in a St. Louis uniform. I don't wish the guy ill will. Good luck somewhere else. But man, if I've ever been done with a player, Carlos Martinez is the one I am done with. Don't want to see him in a Cardinals uniform again.
I really want to see Carlos and Carlos show. I want to see Carlos Martinez being pitching coached by Carlos Zambrano. That would be a dream.
I don't think Carlos Martinez is that violent of a guy, though, barring maybe an incident at a strip club on the other side of the river. I don't really think
but the two head cases together, God, that could make for outstanding.
Well, maybe Zambrano can bring him to Jesus.
Maybe he could.
Yeah. Stranger things have happened, man. Braden, you were going to say something.
As long as the Cardinals keep around Master Harrison Bader through the length of his initial contract, I'm happy. Any other moves you guys make are fine with me. Just keep the Master around.
Well, somebody, I think it was our friend Gino, said that the rub with Bader is he carries himself like Willie Mays Hayes, and that is absolutely true. If you watch how he bats, how he goes up to the plate, flips his bat around and catches it with his hand, and steps into the batter's box, digs in, wiggles his little ass around. I mean, he's damn right that he carries himself like Willie Mays Hayes did in spring training with Lou Brown's Cleveland Indians. And he's not lived up to that kind of all the body language. Like he doesn't live up to his body language. And That is a rub. That really is a rub to people, and it is to me too. And it didn't dawn on me until Gene said that or typed it or whatever. I read it, and I'm like, shit, he's absolutely right. He conducts himself like Willie Mays Hayes does when he walks up to the plate, and he's never lived up to that yet. And I think that's part of the reason why we get irritated with the guy. Like, your body language suggests you're a hell of a lot better than what you are, so stop it.
Ron, I just want to bring to your attention that 3 times in that little monologue there, you said the rub with Harrison Bader.
Well, at least I didn't say Dick Cole.
Thank you for that.
All right, Braden, you were going to say something. I cut you off a while ago. I'm sorry.
All right, so for the Cardinals going forward, and so I don't think the hitting is entirely on this person, but I think, for me, I want to see Jeff Albert go. When Tommy Edman calls out the preparation and says it's not good and they barely do anything, that's kind of on the hitting coach. You know, hitting coach prepares you for a game, and when one of your players basically calls that coach out without saying the actual name, I think that's a problem. As far as Matt Carpenter, you can look at Miles Michaelis. I think one of the Cardinals' mistakes in the past is signing guys to a day extension when, you know, they just came off like one good year, or it hasn't been like 3 or 4 consistent years.
Yeah.
I want to see the Cardinals maybe not tend to extend someone just because they want to make them happy when they've only had maybe 1 or 2 good years, and because I feel like in the past that's come back to bite the Cardinals.
Yeah,
I agree. I don't want to see
no doubt.
What,
yeah, no doubt. You're right about the extensions. I mean, one of the things is well, I mean, you're partially right. I think so in some cases it's worked out for them where they've extended somebody ahead of their arbitration years and maybe even got one beyond arbitration. And it's worked out in a few cases, and several it hasn't. Now, Carpenter's was a different one because he was pending to be a free agent. He was coming up on a walk year, and they extended him after he had that crazy 7-8 weeks in the middle of 2018. We caught one of them. We caught one weekend. We went to a game together, Pete. But it's not an extension I was in favor of. Michaelis, I understand that one. I mean, you plucked the guy out of Japan. You signed him for very little, and he had a great year. They signed him for 2 years, and he played pretty solid, so they extended him. Like, I can't really knock Mo for that one. It just the injury bug hit Michaelis, and that's not something you can always predict, and that's just a risk you take on in baseball, especially with pitchers. I mean, we all know this, right? Now the extension to like Steven Piscotty, Carlos Martinez, strangely enough, exception if you look at the salary this year, they got a bargain from him for a few years while he was throwing well. I mean, they were paying him for really good pitches what they should have been paying somebody like Clayton Kershaw, and that's not a fair comparison. But they were paying him less for the pitches he was throwing that were really good. So maybe it's balanced out a couple of years ago, but yeah, they certainly haven't got their value out of him. So it'll be interesting to see going forward if they still kind of continue that practice. But it's been their way of operating, that if they get a player that they see as being part of their core for 4 or 5 years, they like to lock those guys up to take all of that unknown arbitration, uncomfortableness, and shit off the table. It's just their conservative way of doing it, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I think that if anything's come into question with the Cardinals organization over the last year in the front office, and that is who they're placing their bets on. I think they're questioning that more than ever, and they should. They've placed their bets on a lot of the wrong guys, and they got to ask themselves, why are other organizations or other destinations unlocking these guys' potential when we could not? Adolis Garcia, the latest example, he's sitting there in an all-star uniform, a shitty all-star uniform, by the way, but he's still an all-star, and you had him, and he was in your organization, and you wanted to clear the log jam, and he was one of them, but you said Harrison Bader's our guy. You said Tyler O'Neill's our guy. This guy isn't. They've got to really ask themselves the hard questions. Why are we picking the wrong people here? Or maybe we're not picking the wrong people. We're just not getting the best out of them in our organizational teachings or our way of coaching, our methods. And so there's got to be a significant amount of soul searching, I think, within the entire organization, up and down. Now, Jeff Albert, yeah, I want to blame him too, but I really can't. You think about it. a major league hitting coach is not going up there telling a hitter, hey, raise your back elbow, buddy. Don't pull your head. That's not what they're doing. Now, are they prepping the guys? Are they maybe creating a strategy with them or giving them input? Sure. But they brought him in to teach a hitting philosophy throughout the whole organization. So, by the way, if you hate Jeff Albert now, you don't like him, you're going to see his impact for the next 5, 6, 7 years, because all these guys all the way down in low A have been learning his philosophy. Those are the guys that are going to be graduating. So if you don't like what you see now, I don't really think you've seen his impact yet. You're going to see his impact when these guys start coming up. And so it'll either work or it won't. We don't know yet. But really the failure of the major league roster to hit or to hit with anybody in scoring position or to just get themselves on base to get a better OPS, anything at all. Shit, we'll take anything at this point. I don't know that I don't know how you guys feel. It's hard for me to point at a hitting coach and say, all your fault.
I don't think it's all his fault at all. I'm just saying when Edman pretty clearly called
the
out
preparation.
Coach,
I agree.
That's
Yep.
the problem.
Yeah, I can see, guys, him perhaps relieving him of duty at the major league level to let him focus on this philosophy throughout the developmental process, which isn't in the major league. You shouldn't be developing guys in the major league. That's the polishing up there. If you bring a guy up earlier than you want to, he's learning some stuff on the fly, and you got to polish him up there instead of at AAA. And
it's adjustments when you're in Major League Baseball. It's adjustments. You're not overhauling a swing. We've seen what overhauling a swing at the Major League level can do. You end up with yes,
Kyle Schwarber.
Don't leave out Jason Hayward every year.
Jason Hayward,
Corey Patterson.
He was actually the first to come to mind.
Hey, wait. World champion Corey Patterson.
Yes.
2011
Corey
Cardinals.
Patterson was a world champion.
2011 Cardinals.
Yeah.
Shit.
Well, you also got world champion.
Great. World champion
Kyle
Jason
Schwarber
Hayward.
and Jason Hayward.
All right, guys, enough of the Cardinals talk. We could peel back that onion. We could literally eat up a whole show talking about what's going on there, and I don't want to.
Yeah, absolutely. And, since we're speaking about dissension, and this can provide the nice, smooth transition, Tommy Edman wasn't the only one to pop off in the last week. In a moment that I thought might have finally made Ron a Wilson stan, Wilson Contreras ripped his teammates.
I did see that.
He did.
I was actually going to bring that up.
Yeah, no.
And this was not kind. This was not beating around the bush. This was a redux of Carlos.
This
Zambrano's "We Stink"
or Miguel Montero.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I remember that one.
Except for Wilson's not getting traded that we know of.
No, you're right. He's not. But he apparently got called to the woodshed because David Ross came out pretty strongly and said, and Rizzo also came out and said this is something that should have been handled in the clubhouse and not with the
I think KB did too.
Yeah.
Well, I would think that. Do I have more respect for Contreras? No. I would expect him to do something like this. Now, and I would tell you that the one thing I've never doubted with Contreras is how much he cares and how much he wants to win. That's pretty clear, and he wears that on his sleeve. There's no question of how much he wants to compete, and he wants to see players around him that conduct themselves in a way that suggests that they care the same amount as him. And sometimes that's impossible. You get people that are just intense around the clock, and it can wear your ass out. I work with people like that. Like they don't ever crack a smile. It's all business. And
his resting face is fired up.
Yeah, his resting face is actually his mad face. Well, no, it just looks mad. There are just some people that are the switch is always on, and they're always in compete mode, and they're always in all business mode. And I don't. This doesn't surprise me that he, there's an element of tact there. Could he have said it differently? Could he have handled it? Yeah, he could have. I know what he meant by it, by the way. Even Ross's explanation afterwards I didn't buy that either. No, Wilson meant exactly what he meant, and he's seeing players around him that are relaxed and giggling and having fun while they're getting beat, and he's not liking it.
Yep.
During an 11-game losing streak.
Yeah.
And to that end, Elliot, who's going out the door? I mean, Joc's already out the door, but I can't imagine he's the last one. Who's following his ass out?
I mean, the biggest one that's going to get the biggest return is going to be Craig Kimbrell. I think I think he is going to be the one that multiple teams are going to be going after and be offering the best prospects for, because we know the Cubs aren't looking for anything major league ready right now to bring in. They're looking for talented prospects to get young again. Right after them, and I don't want them to go, is Chafin. I feel like a middle reliever that can lock it down. I mean, him and his tractors are gone, I feel like. In his Firebird, his Pontiac Firebird.
Of course, he drives a Firebird. Yeah, I'm with you, Elliot. I think that the most likely scenario is that we see a lot of the Cubs pitching go. I'm not so confident that Chris Bryant gets moved or Rizzo or Baez. I think that the return on that is going to be too underwhelming, and I think that, you know, if they don't think that they're going to get anything of value, why trade those guys when you can slap them with a qualifying offer and get a compensation pick when each of them moves on? And if they don't move on and they end up signing a contract and staying in Chicago, great. Then you didn't lose anything by it. But I don't see Jed Hoyer making moves just for the sake of making moves. He's going to have to get something for it. As highlighted by the fact that apparently right now it seems that everybody is confused by how he managed to steal this prospect from the Braves. Granted, he has some warts. He's not perfect, but still, everybody thinks right now that the Cubs won this trade.
Absolutely. And just from the little bit that I read before jumping on here, says everything points towards that Jed made a really good move here and is taking a chance, like you said earlier, that for some reason the Braves got sour on this kid. Maybe it's his age, maybe it's just the way that he's performing down there right now. But he's still 23. After this,
and I'll remind you that the Braves
season
also soured on a guy named Adam Wainwright and traded him for J.D. Drew. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Different group, but still. And you wonder also, does Alex Anthopoulos' past experience with Joc Pederson possibly color his evaluation of him? You know, and he said, I know what Joc can do.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to give up a little more. And Jed played on that, you know, which is what the best GMs do.
And now that I'm kind of thinking about it too, besides Kimbrel and Chafin, I think are the two big pieces. Then I think after that is going to be Zach Davies. I think Zach Davies has a big chance to actually go back to San Diego. So no, we're not going to get Yu Darvish back for him, but maybe we can get some of those other prospects because, you know, San Diego's in it. I mean, they are going for everything this year, and Davies would be a good piece to bring back in for them, especially since the way that he's performed since May.
All right, guys, I got to read some of the comments here to you guys. So,
well, hang on a second, Ron. Let me just wrap this up.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. I'll pull them up.
Especially when you look at the starting pitching market that's available right now. You know, there's nobody who's overwhelming anybody where there's going to be a massive, like Max Scherzer's hurt. So you're not going to see people, you know, climbing over themselves to land Max Scherzer. And so when you look at the available starting pitcher market, there's not a whole hell of a lot there. And Zach Davies looks like a really viable option. Go, Ron. Yeah.
Okay, just going up and Pete, going back to Elliot's idea for the mustache show. Gene Bond said we should just call it the StacheCast.
Okay,
I like that. A couple other things I just picked up on here. The best player in Chicago is the backup quarterback for the Bears. Now, who is that? Is that Dalton?
It's Mitch
Trubisky.
Justin Fields.
Just kidding.
Mitch Trubisky. He's going to be in the XFL. Starting quarterback for the St. Louis Battlehawks.
Isn't it Buffalo this year?
Yeah, it's something like that.
I thought you were going to say the Boston Patriots. I'm like, yep, that's them. Let's see here. I heard shit the bed, but I'm not really sure what they're referring to. Always thought that scouts in the Cardinals system, since the guy that went to Houston, you talking about Jeff Luhnow, were the problem. Are we recognizing Tom for what it is? Yeah, I mean, it's what I was saying earlier. And yeah, I don't know that that's such a coincidence either. Jeff Luhnow, for all his douchebaggery that he pulled in Houston, he actually built a pretty good farm system in St. Louis. Now, I have a personal family thing against him is that when he took over the Cardinals farm system, he did make a series of cuts. He cut out players that weren't his boys. My brother-in-law, Ben, one of them, was released in 2008, I believe, and that's when Luno took over, or around the time when he took over that system. But yes, there could very well be some facts behind that. That he developed a great system when he was here. He wasn't the GM for the Cardinals, but he was a scouting director, and he was over all player development. So that guy's got some talent somewhere. You just got to learn how to not ignore memos from the league.
Been doing a little research here for the StacheCast, and just for reference, this was when the boy was born.
Excellent.
We're getting some reflection there from the light, but yeah, that's a good
there
one.
you go.
And then there's another one in here.
Pretty
that
filthy.
You guys will like.
Okay.
Yeah, that was actually. I'm going to turn this off for a second here so that we don't get that reflection. And then where is it? Oh yeah, no, this is a good one.
Oh, Jesus.
OMG.
Yes.
Oh my God.
You
So
actually
in answer to
look
your
like
question,
my college
Ron,
roommate.
yes.
Is any picture
Ron,
that
yes, I can grow a
completely
mustache.
doesn't even look like you. I mean, it looks like you were playing a character in a movie, like you were an extra in like a factory setting or something. It's not even you.
November.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll bring that back. Maybe the StacheCast will be a thing. I don't know how enthusiastic my wife would be about that, but
It's just 1 month, and we'll do it in the true Movember style. We will start.
I don't know if I can do the month.
We'll start on November 1st, completely clean shaven.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Shave November 1st, and then every week we'll just give our fans an update. I mean, we could do daily updates on Twitter, Instagram. Actually, that might be fun.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Well, what we can do to
gotta keep that one
limit
quiet.
Ron's embarrassment at work is we grow the beards till the end of November.
That's the only time that's the only time I wish COVID was still around, would be over November when I got to wear a mustache to work. That'd be the only
No,
time.
but here will be the explanation. We'll sign up. We'll do. Actually, here we go.
Yep.
This will be good.
Well, for charity.
And this is how we can engage our massive audience. We'll start a Movember group. Right? I mean, there's like a legitimate foundation for Movember. The money goes towards prostate cancer research. I've done it a number of years.
Yep.
So we do that. We start our own group, and it's not just the three of us. It's all of our fans. They take part too. We fundraise for it. And then when you're getting shit at work, you can say, hey, this is for a good cause. Okay? This is for prostate cancer research. How about we worry about the boys?
That's right. I agree.
There you go.
Guys, I don't know if you were done with the Cubs. I mean, I could have went another hour talking about the Cardinals.
We're definitely done with the Cubs. Although I have to say, Ron, because I can sense you wrapping it up. I actually find myself now more excited about the remainder of the year than I have been up to this point, because I'm eager to see, okay, what do we have coming up in the system? Like as we start clearing out spaces and start bringing guys up for extended looks from AAA and AA, I think we're going to get a good sense of what the future of the Cubs may hold.
Speaking of the future's game MVP was a Tennessee Smoky.
He's I think he's done being what is he, the 30th or 50th ranked prospect in baseball. I think that was his coming out party, and he's going to start rocketing.
Tennessee Smokies used to be a Cardinals AA organization. I think the Cardinals and Cubs just kind of share these locations.
They do.
Every
Peoria.
decade or so. Yeah. And so, not to jettison baseball all of a sudden. I know we've got another genre I just want to touch on, even if it's just for 5 minutes. We can deal with it. But by the way, Pete, if you want to walk us out of the baseball part here, I'm sure that the audio download listeners that are only interested in baseball are not going to want to hear the last little bit of the end here. So if you want to end that part, please do.
I'd be happy to, especially if you could mute Braden and all of his background noise.
Oh, hang on.
So if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to help spread the word, please give us a 5-star review and tell your friends to subscribe. We're available on Facebook, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. And while you're subscribing to us, be sure to check out the other Gateway City Sports Network podcasts, including the Derek King Sports Show, 2 for 3 with Moose Michaels, Turn 2 with Dylan Dinger and Tito Rivera, Yacker Jacks, and XFL STL. Send us an email at the show at teamofrivalspodcast.com, and you can find Elliot on Twitter at
TOR_Elliot.
And you can find Ron at
TOR_Ron75. There's one more, Pete. I've been unfair to you. There was one more show I failed to fill you in on. That was In the Cards by the A Train, Arlington Lane.
That's my own fault. You had told me about that one.
That's okay.
And I hadn't added
Write that down in Slack, man. I failed. My failure. Sorry, A Train, Arlington Lane. He picked up the mantle. He's carrying it much better than I did. In the Cards is another Cardinals podcast. Arlington Lane's part of also In the Zone Network, which we do a little bit of work with back and forth. So check those guys out too.
So, Ron, the other genre we're going to talk about, are we talking Star Wars or are we talking about the season finale of Loki?
Yeah, we can talk about both. I mean, I think we can talk about both. I'll put Braden's volume back up if he quits hitting the bottom of his microphone or whatever the hell he's doing. I don't want to know. He's 16.
He's following in Harrison's footsteps, and that's the rub.
That was great.
I don't know if I would say great. Disturbing. So for me, let's talk about the Loki series first. I really, talking about all these Marvel shows that have kind of built off of the Marvel universe. It took me a while to warm up to WandaVision. Man, the first 2 episodes were brutal for me, and they were. And I get that they're trying to do something unique, something different, and maybe I'll appreciate it more later over time when I maybe go back and watch or experience whatever they've got in store next. It was the weirdness that I guess I appreciated more at the end of the series than I did at the beginning. But man, getting over those first 2 episodes was tough for me. Then there was the Falcon and Winter Soldier, which I felt was much more straightforward. There's not weirdness there. It was like very straightforward, continuation of a story. I get it. Loki it's a trip, man. I'm constantly feel like I'm doing calculus every time I'm watching an episode. And I don't know how you guys feel about it. The series finale to this one, look, we all know Loki is somebody who can carry themselves like almost like a regal thing, even when he's getting his ass kicked. He's got this regal sense about him, and to see him in a tie, a sweaty shirt and a tie, without power, I only thought that would last for a bit, but now he's right back there again at the end where he can't use any. He's just a normal guy, and nobody remembers him after this whole experience. And I'm sitting there going, this poor guy just went through all of this shit, had a transformation of soul, and now he's thrown right back into the Time Variance Authority. They don't remember him, and they're probably going to arrest him again because they don't know who he is. And to me, it's just like, I don't know, this one, maybe it'll pay off later. I just thought the end of this one was an unsatisfying ending to 6 episodes. Parts of it I really enjoyed, but at the end of this one, guys, I'm not the biggest fan of, but I'll still invest. I'll still watch it when it returns. But right now, I'm just kind of like, yeah, I don't know. This one doesn't do it for me.
Well, Elliot, I know we'll get much deeper into it, but this was all done to set up the next phase of the MCU. And this is, for those who are unfamiliar, you were introduced Wednesday night or Wednesday morning, whenever it is you watched it, to Kang the Conqueror. And that's going to be your big bad. And actually, what I love about it is that he doesn't have to be like Thanos, where Thanos was in the dark and untouchable and invincible right up until basically the last moment, right? You couldn't have Thanos be vulnerable because then you lose your bad guy. With Kang the Conqueror,
and he was nothing that resembled human either. He was bigger than life. He was, yeah.
Here's the great thing about Kang. Because of the multiverses being set loose, you can defeat this guy in the Doctor Strange film, and he gets to come back in the Spider-Man film. And as the actor, I would love this challenge. He gets to be a completely different character entirely, because every time he comes back, it's going to be one of the other multiversal Kangs coming to take over. And so this provides all kinds of opportunity, because now you have your bad guy, and it doesn't matter how many times you kill him, because you're just getting another version of him. So yes, you've killed him. You've had your victory. And now he's back.
And now he's back
in a worse form, or a less capable form, or a more capable form. And my brother mentioned something. I talked to him earlier this week that I thought was interesting. Is that you could have a movie where the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man shows up, whoever the other two actors were, like those Spider-Men show up because they're different universes. And
Andrew Garfield,
thank you. And Tom,
you get
Tom
to have
Holland?
Chris Evans. You get to have Chris Evans if you want. You get to have him play Captain America, and you get to have him play what's the dude from the Fantastic Four, and it's totally cool.
The Human Torch.
Human Torch. That's right.
Yeah. The spider could have bit many different people. So you even have the into
you
the
could
Spider-Verse,
have Gwen Stacy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Miles Morales will be in. You
could totally introduce Miles Morales in No Way Home, and
all of a sudden, the Spider-Ham movie becomes a reality with Kangaroo and Conqueror.
Well,
you got Jack Black play Spider-Man.
What I'm most excited about, I guess, I think this is something that not many people are talking about. When it was first announced, What If was kind of like, oh, it's just going to be, some cartoon that was, certain scenarios and it'll be fine. But I think What If is going to be a bigger show than what people think. It's because I think it's going to be a show, and it's going to show us an alternate timeline of all our heroes. And this is something that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about, but I don't know if any of you seen the trailer, but the What If trailer that Marvel dropped last week, there's a scene where Doctor Strange says, "Who are you?" to Peggy Carter, who is Captain Carter in What If, and in this trailer. And my theory is that Doctor Strange who says, "Who are you?" is the MCU Doctor Strange that we'll see in the Multiverse of Madness or Spider-Man or whatever, and he's exploring different timelines. So I think it's awesome for the MCU because this makes sense why Deadpool gets to go in the MCU, the X-Men, Fantastic Four, Tobey Maguire, all of these, Doc Ock, and there's just so many endless possibilities, and I think it's awesome for Marvel, and I enjoyed the Loki episode. I thought Jonathan Majors was awesome. I loved how he wasn't bad right off the bat. It wasn't, spectacular with action or anything, but it was what it needed to be for me.
Yeah. All this stuff I would need to do like a study on just to get myself like grounded, like what the hell is going on. That's kind of what I felt with this Loki thing. Yeah, and I didn't know about this villain. So
the King the Conqueror, like Pete was alluding to, where how he explained there are thousands of him.
That's a comic book character, right? Like
and there's your three main Kangs. There's your back in Egyptian time Kang, then your purple guy, Kang the Conqueror, who is probably going to be that big bad guy, and then there's Immortus, which is that's who we saw at the end of Loki was Immortus. It wasn't.
Well, we should just get Stephen A. Smith's take on this, and then we could probably just end it. That's what I'd like. I hear Stephen A. Smith being confused, not knowing any of this stuff, have a microphone stuck right in front of his face and give his opinion on the Loki season ending, because that would be entertaining, more entertaining than what we're talking about right now. So the Loki series. First of all, I love seeing Owen Wilson in a MCU environment.
His Mobius was awesome.
Hey, he was great.
I'm
disappointed.
Probably my favorite character from the whole thing has really been him.
I'm disappointed we didn't see a Lightning McQueen variant.
Lightning McQueen variant, yeah. Well, it should show up. I mean, they should have a car spinning out of control, and it's a variant. Let's move on to the last topic here, and that is just the Bad Batch. Guys, this last week, I mean, I usually am very patient with Filoni and his filler episodes. What most people call them, filler episodes that don't really propel the story along. This last one for me is like, guys, I'm like, it's been a couple weeks in a row here where I've been like, okay, I get it. This will pay off later. But damn, guys, I'm at the point now where I'm like, can you please get back can we please get the story going again? Because this last one for me was slow and rough, and I could have done without it. I don't know how you guys feel. Maybe completely different than I do, but this one was not.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for the reason where I feel like the next one's going to be the payoff to show us how Hera got the ghost and her ships, where she's running now, and that's how she got her ships. So I feel like I think this will pay off next, and I think this will kind of this next one will push the story along a little bit more.
Pete, do you think he's pushing it a little bit where like every new series you do, you constantly bring characters from another thing you've done into it? That do you keep having to do this? Or is he kind of like getting close to that point where, shit, are you going to do this every time you do something? Because it's now from the Clone Wars to Rebels to the Mandalorian to the Bad Batch. You keep kind of reintroducing people from other, and maybe it works. It works. I think it works well in some cases, but in some cases I feel like it might be a little bit like, we didn't need this, but you did it. Okay.
Well, here's what I think, Ron. I think Dave Filoni is the polar opposite of J.J. Abrams. Dave Filoni does not like to have threads untied. And so I think he's wrapping them all up, or he's extending them into greater stories. Look, we've seen Ahsoka, we've seen Captain Rex, we've seen all kinds of, we've seen Boba Fett, all kinds of characters pop up in the last year. We've seen all kinds of characters pop up in different areas that we know are going to show up in other places. And I think that ultimately this is going to all culminate in an Avengers style finish for this arc. And I think that what he's doing is he's pulling it out, right? So we're getting the backstory for Hera because it completes her story up to Rebels. Like it gives us a fuller picture of her. One, I think, yes, she's going to show up again at some point in the Bad Batch. But two, I think this clearly signals that we're going to see her in the Ahsoka series, that she's going to pop up there at some point to help Ahsoka.
And so as soon as the words leave my mouth that, is he always going to do this, I find myself going, God, I would really love to see Rex show up in The Mandalorian.
And why would
Absolutely.
he not?
No, I mean,
it
would. It would be, that's the one character kind of left from this whole thing that hasn't shown up in The Mandalorian from, the previous era. There are two.
And you have the actor.
You do. You have the actor already.
Yes.
You just got to slap a little gray beard on him and call it a day, right? He's the guy that's standing at the bunker at Endor.
Yep.
That they were joking about, but I don't know if that's become canon or not, but
it has become canon.
Yeah, so that's Rex at the bunker.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You got to put him in there. I mean, he's got to find a way to get Rex into the Mandalorian, hell or high water. I don't care if he's toting a cane or whatever he's doing, but you gotta do it, right?
Well, he does. And I got to share one with you. I had a really interesting conversation with another friend of mine who listens to the podcast. Hat tip to you, Hammer. And we were talking about it the other day. And two things that came up. One, look, I got a bad feeling about this. I think that things are not going to turn out well for the Bad Batch by the time that this series ends. They're either all going to get wiped out or they're all going to eventually get assimilated just like Crosshair already has. That's one. But the thing that he raised that I had never considered, and I don't know that this is huge, but he speculated, what if Omega is Phasma? She's right about the right age. She's blonde.
Holy shit.
Right?
Yeah.
Ron, you're not buying it.
I'm not buying it because I read the Phasma novel. She's from a planet called Parnassus, I think, if I've got it right. And she was native.
Okay.
She was native from there, and they grew up in a strange culture, warrior culture, kind of a tribal thing. And look, if I hadn't read that novel, I would look at him and go, "Holy shit, you might be right." That's actually would make a lot of sense. But since I've read that novel, I know where Phasma comes from. So I know
grew up as of what age?
I wouldn't know. I don't remember going back and reading that novel.
And remember, Ron, we had a different backstory.
But in the Phasma novel, she would have had to have her entire memory just completely erased.
She's a clone.
She's a clone, but she's also a direct copy, not a fourth, fifth generation of vet. So,
right.
Yeah.
Anyway, interesting one that he threw out there.
And Ahsoka.
What'd you say, B?
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Omega and Ahsoka. And honestly, I think if we're going to see Rex at all, it's not going to be the Mandalorian. It's going to be the Ahsoka show.
You might be right. Yeah, you might be right.
And
way more significance to Ahsoka.
Yeah.
I think we'll see Omega somewhere else, because the one thing that I thought was pretty cool in, I believe, the episode before was when she was playing the holo chess or whatever against the Chiss. Correct? Wasn't it a Chiss that she was playing against that she beat, that the strategy game? Yes. So I felt like, and I don't know how many people caught that, but that's what Thrawn is in that race.
Elliot,
is
I thought
known.
that character didn't have red eyes though. That's what threw me off. So I'm not so sure it was Chiss.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, but
I'm in the middle of the latest Thrawn novel, Ascendancy, and I can't remember the title of it.
Okay.
But all this novel I'm reading now takes place before Thrawn's arrival to the Empire, so it was all three. The Chiss have red eyes, so I have to go back and watch.
They all do.
They all do.
Okay, and I don't think they would miss a detail like that.
And none of them say yes. They go yes, like that.
Right.
Of course. That kind of thing.
But he was calm after he lost.
Every time. Well, of course I lost. I calculated it. This is how it goes. All right, guys. So, yeah, the last couple episodes of Bad Batch haven't landed in the spot that I've wanted them to, but, you know, isn't the astromech droid arc for Clone Wars that disappointed me greatly. It paid off later. So I trust Dave, not losing faith.
These episodes will pay off in a couple years.
It's just one of these things. I want you.
There's also 17 episodes, more like over 13.
You know, I want one like the Luke Skywalker, and this is a tall ask. It's unrealistic. Like, guys, after the Mandalorian season 2 finale, where Luke Skywalker showed up, who wasn't pacing through their house? Trying to
get it.
Process what you just saw.
Ron, you're going to get it. You know you're going to get it at the end of this season. You are going to get that payoff. Filoni's going to direct the last episode or two, and you're going to get that payoff.
You're like, hey, Ron, I know you're sitting on
and you're going to be sitting here saying, why did I ever question Dave Filoni?
Yeah.
That brilliant motherfucker, he did it again.
and if he could talk to me, he'd be like, Ron, you're sitting there just all pissed off, but here you go again. You're walking around. I just blew your mind. Son of a bitch. Go Penguins. You know.
And by payoff, Ron, I mean that he's that Wolf is going to fly up in his X-Wing and he's going to land.
Yeah.
You'd be like, hey, Bad Batch, I heard you guys need another one.
Heard you guys needed a warrior. Here I am. I got one blaster. I got 6 rounds in it. Let's go. Yeah. All right.
It's been a good week, gentlemen.
It's been a good week.
I can't wait to get back on next week and talk about where Craig Kimbrell, Andrew Chafin, Ryan Tapera, and Zach Davies have headed and who the Cubs are getting back.
And Braden, we can talk next week about who the Cardinals got that are on the margins that are, you know, a cast off from some other organization.
That's right.
I'm hoping for Kyle Gibson or Jose Barrios, but we'll see.
Well,
yeah, given the state of the starting pitching market, they're going to teams that actually have a chance.
In my prediction, guys, is the Cardinals' biggest competition at this point is a point of controversy, and that would be Trevor Bauer, because since Trevor Bauer has kind of put himself in jeopardy at this point, I think the Dodgers are going to be major players for anybody that might be available, and you know they can always afford to do it.
Yep.
So any marginal team that thought they were going to nab up a top line starter, or even like a number 2 starter or a 3 starter, an innings eater, guess who's in the market now? The Dodgers. Yep. So whatever you thought you were going to do.
Hello, Zach Davies.
That's right.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's go, Jed. It's time for you to play the Dodgers and the Padres against each other.
Well, if anybody could do it, he's from that area, so he might be able to pull it off.
And he's very familiar with the Padres' farm system based on last year.
I don't think our bow tie wearing Starbucks sipping guy is gonna have the cojones to play in that Shark Tank.
We'll see.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. No, we didn't get to look at Facebook all that often, but a couple of you are still hanging around. Greg, you're always a warrior, man. Here from the beginning to end. We love you.
Greg, let's get a drink.
Thanks for tuning in.
Greg, you should join in this Movember thing or whatever the hell it is. All right, guys. Until next week, we'll be back on same time, place. Sorry. Got a little premature.
You should just let it go.
Yeah, you did.
Got a little premature.
That's what happens when you root for a baiter.
Little premature thing going on there, but we love you all so much.
You fire off prematurely because you've been rubbing elbows too frequently.
That's true. And I won't do it anymore. We'll be back next week. Same time, same place. We love you all so much. Bye-bye, everyone.